Episode 66. Climbing up there. It's National Plant a Flower Day. I can't really answer that for real because the weather is teasing us at the moment. So I don't know if it's a good idea to plant flowers in Boise or not. Maybe bulbs. I'm not too certain of that yet. So consult your local nursery professional. It is also National Working Moms Day. Don't all moms work even if they're not being paid? I'm pretty sure that's the case. Moms work hard. And my favorite, it's National Girl Scout Day. So I've already talked to my dealer. So I've got cookies coming in the near future. Okay, questions. I've talked about this many times before over the last 66 episodes. Not all of them I've talked about this. But one person had been watching last week and then sent me a text message with a picture of a band playing, and these were all over the stage. And not were they just on the stage, but the lead singer had it in about this position, singing, and you can't really see their face. So we said, will you please talk about people who use iPads on stage, especially at eye level? Okay, so this is where water gets murky and muddy, and sometimes people get a little upset being called out. Look, let me just, before I say anything else, because these are my opinions, if you're out there playing and doing your thing and having fun and whatever, great. Good for you. And technology can definitely be our friend in many ways. I personally think that if your job as a singer is to sing and to know the lyrics, so you don't have to have. To me, it's like live karaoke moment. I've never sang karaoke other than when my wedding reception happened. But and at that point I was looking at a computer screen because I had no idea what the words were to these songs. It was just spontaneous things that were happening. I when I see a band that's been playing for years and doing their thing, and this is a constant crutch on stage, I'm not a fan. I haven't been shy about saying that before. Uh, sometimes we have our iPads or phones on the stage because now you can, with technology, I run in-ears, in-ear monitoring system, and so I can hook my phone generally most of the time, not always, but I can run my own monitor mix because everything's through a Wi-Fi dedicated Wi-Fi router with a sound engineer, and that makes things easy on multiple levels. I don't have to try to keep getting the sound man's attention or the monitor guy's attention to make adjustments. My phone is just right there and I can reach over. But it's not part of my performance to monitor what I'm hearing. So I do know that iPads and phones will appear on stage frequently for that specific purpose. And usually they're kind of discreet where they're placed and out of the way. I'm talking specifically about using this to let you know what the words are. I remember, at least to my recollection, is when we all discovered that Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses had these screens inside of what looked like monitors as a teleprompter kind of thing for his lyrics. And I remember so many people making fun of Axl Rose because he was doing that. And, you know, I think we're all well aware that Axl Rose's ego ran away uh, to levels that are hard to describe. But yeah, so he's staring at lyrics implanted within a look like a stage monitor. And when that was discovered, it was everybody was making fun of that. Like, don't you know the songs, the lyrics to your own songs that you wrote? Now, I will say, uh, any of the bands that I've played in, the singer's not looking at lyrics. In Midline, if we were playing a brand new song, I think we've all experienced that. Sometimes you're trying to remember how, like, maybe the second verse starts. So Anthony on his set list next to the title of that song would have like a primer word, whatever that word wasn't necessarily the first word of the sentence, but it was whatever the next thing that he was singing about would be. So there might be one or two words just to glance down and go, oh yeah, that's it. Until you know the song has been performed multiple times. Uh, I think that's okay. So it's iPads at eye level. I say level up. Learn the words. I've also had singers. I as a drummer and as a person who enjoys listening to music, I like to know what the lyrics are. I know not everybody focuses on lyrics. They might hear melody, they might hear a cool guitar riff or drum beat or some musical thing that's happening that captivates them, and that's what they're kind of focused on. Um, I personally like to know the lyrics as quickly as possible, especially writing music. Once I know what the lyrics are, I can mold my drum parts to help uh, carry what is being said lyrically. If the motion of what those things are, or um, the intent of what their lyrics are. You might play louder, you might play softer, you might put a drum fill or an accent here, or whatever the case is. I like to know the lyrics so I can try to support musically what's happening for those lyrics. Does that make sense? Musically support what the lyrics are saying, just even through the drums. So uh, I say level up, learn the lyrics, know what those lyrics are, and perform them. So you don't have this in front of your face. This is not a good way to represent your band. Hi, I'm a talking piece of plastic. Okay, there you go. That's my feelings on iPads. Again, over and over, I've said that. I'm a shoe guy, which I will say I ran across another musician friend of mine who in just in conversation said nobody's ever going to tell me how to dress. Okay, sure, but the chances of this person and I working in the context of a band together is probably unlikely, because when I play with different bands, Midline is a really great example because that's been a thing for me for crawling up on 30 years of being in that environment. And even though we've had some member changes, there's this common goal that the band has. And part of that common goal is how we appear. And so, yeah, we talk about the clothes that we're going to wear. We talk about shirts, pants, shoes, those kind of things. We discuss how we're going to perform on stage. Not as in detail as we used to, because we have that pretty well figured out by now. But still, when you're putting a concert together and you're talking about the flow of a show and what's happening from song to song and what might be happening in between those songs, if anything, little segues to keep something happening, keep things interesting. Uh, we want to perform our best. We want to look our best. We want to present ourselves a certain way. So I approach every group that I play with like that. Even if I'm just sitting in with a band, like a band has hired me for a night, not only do I ask what the songs are so that I can be prepared musically, is I ask them, how do you want me to dress? What is the appearance of the band? I don't go to the band and say, nobody's going to tell me what to do. That band is hiring me for a service of playing drums. And because that band is hiring me, they not only want something musical to happen, but I want to know, how do they want me to appear? So for an individual to say, nobody's going to tell me how to dress or what shoes to wear. Okay, sure. Then you can stay in that group of people who think that way. Same with these goofy things. Nobody's going to tell me that I can't have an iPad on stage. Okay. Yeah, I won't be in your band telling you that. Yes. Level up. Level up. I mean, this discussion could go really a direction that I wasn't intending to, but I will say, I'm trying to remember. I'd have to look real quick from last week, because I have some students who are working musicians around town, and sometimes they watch this and then they come in and we just part of our lesson is discussing some of these ideas. Oh, it was about getting paid. Oh, do you play for free because it's huge exposure? And that just led to a bunch of other discussions. You know, in the outdoors world, they say people die from exposure. Bands die from exposure. It costs money to have a band, whether it's a collective thing or individual costs. You know, guitar players have cables, they have strings, they have picks, uh, guitar strap, gas in their car to travel to a gig, even if it's just driving a few miles down the road. There's still a cost involved with that. There's a cost in the years of working your craft and getting better at that. So when a venue says, yes, we would love to have music and it's great exposure, that's your compensation, is great exposure. Uh, that might be okay initially if you're new and you've never done anything before and you're just trying to get your feet wet. But don't continue doing that for years or decades, or think that the music business only works in that dynamic, because it's not true. Um, so that led to the discussion of hear about anything, and then bands that have this huge uh, success. And am I back? Hopefully, I'm back. Everything's still on. Everything's still on. I don't know why our Wi-Fi has been a little glitchy. So, uh, at any rate, a band. This is I had a clever way of saying this. What was it? What was it? My Wi-Fi glitching there distracted me. So when you have a band that's new and they don't know much and they have a little experience, their their hope or their goal is to keep expanding and get better at their craft and lead to better and better situations. Then you have some people that have they've been stuck in that little loop forever, and they don't think that it works any other way. So we tell ourselves these little lies, or we have in our mind that only works that way. Well, what does it take to take the next step to be more successful? The next step and the next step. I'm constantly working on that myself. But it is getting away from these things. It is being concerned about how you appear, what you're wearing, um, all of those things, how well your band sounds. You know, I talk about playing to the click in the studio and even using it live. And even if you don't use it live, having great time is important. And you know, you could. My phone's only set this way, so if time is more or less level, great. But you don't want time doing this. Time is not a dolphin swimming in the ocean. It's very unreliable. It's hard to know where time is going to be if the drummer's just all over the map, so to speak. Or if you're playing like this and then you have this big stumble of time, that's not good either. Yeah, so all of these things come together to create a better product, if you will, that leads to better things. So yeah, you have to be good at what you do. Um, and then once you're better, making connections with things that are in alignment with your goals, your plan. Let's see. Mrs. F is on and Greg is here. So let's check out these couple comments really quick. Here we go. Mrs. Fisher, the producer, says, pardon me, the audience wants to connect with the performer. Staring at an iPad while you perform is not much different than staring at your phone while you're in a conversation with someone. Humans want to connect, so connect with your audience, memorize the words and music. Yes, absolutely. That's a great point, because I'm on here talking to however many people are watching. I don't really know for sure. But I do know that on average, I'll have about 300 people watch this either live or on a replay. So yeah, if I was talking on camera, but I've spent my time going, talking over here, it looks like I don't care about my audience whatsoever that's over here. And I think that's, good point. Oh, Greg says, good morning. Daylight savings time is apparently getting the better of me. Sunny says, LOL, I thought you meant me with Mrs. F. Oh, because Sunny Fagiano is here. You're Anthony's Mrs. F, Sunny. Mary is my Mrs. F. Yeah, daylight savings time. Well, I meant to talk about that, but we'll come back around here in a moment. So, yeah, iPads anywhere is just, if you need it for your sound or whatever, have that discreetly put off to the side or somewhere that's not distracting from your performance. So, in rehearsal, whatever, go for it, because you're working on that. Let's see. The next question, I'm going to read that because it was sent in a message from Mark Stevens, because he started posting or asking about this. Let's see. Mark Stevens asked, hey, Fred, it was fun to listen to your show this morning. You're very real, and it felt like having a conversation among friends. Cool. See? I love that. Keep up the good work. My question about what does it take to have a band that stands the test of time is due to my experiences over the years. I have wished for a group of musicians to play with for fun, kind of like some guys get together once a week to play basketball. No big aspirations, just an opportunity to make music for fun. Do you have any advice for finding people who might be like-minded? I love music, but I'm far from a pro, and while I enjoy playing guitar at home by myself or for friends, I like the camaraderie of playing in a band. All right, Mark. Yep, I get all of that. Yeah, some people, like I said when I was talking about that drum book, is that some of my students, the only reason they play drums is that's an outlet for them to sit behind some drums and swing some sticks and play along to songs. As simple as that. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's very enjoyable to do. But Mark is a guitar player, I believe, and he wants to get together and just jam with friends once a week. He said kind of like basketball. I've had other friends that I've played music with in the past who um, they said for them that's their golf. People that go and play golf regularly, and they do that once a week or something. I think all of that is great, and I would encourage people who want to do that to do that. But he's asking how do I find people to do that or to commit to that? Anytime you involve another person in your activities, it is it can be a struggle. It could be as simple as inviting people to your kid's birthday party. That happens once a year, and you can send out an invite to a birthday party a month, 2 months in advance, and people will RSVP, and then it'll become day before or even the morning of. I can't make it because of whatever reason they might have. Things come up, and then that's a disappointment when people can't make it to your birthday party. It could be a disappointment when you're looking forward to Monday night jams with your friends, and there's always somebody who can't make it for whatever reason. Their kid has especially if you have kids, your commitment is going to be to your kids, and I get that too. We've somehow managed to juggle all these commitments in the Fisher house. But yeah, I think being really clear in your communication is key to having some success just at getting together and jamming. And that's your only deal, is to play some guitar riffs and have a drummer play along, and a singer, and and full band. Yeah, just be really clear that that's all your intention is. But even that, if that's your only intention, is there's still a commitment to a regularity of that, and being upfront with people and saying, I want to do this. I want to do it regularly, once a week, just to have fun and have that release. Just like Mark was saying, it's like guys will get together and go play basketball, or people will get together and go play golf on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning or whatever that is. Just carving out time for you. And I think those other people that are doing that are carving time out for themselves. That includes you in that group of friends. And how long that goes on, I don't know. I don't live in that particular world. I do have people that occasionally will come up to me, we should jam sometime, and they're all excited about it. And I just politely tell them that I don't have the time to do that, because my schedule is full. I'm teaching, and I've got Midline, and I've got Cliff Miller, and I've got recording and those kind of things. So my availability to carve out extra time to just jam with somebody is highly unlikely. Now, depending on who that person might be, there might be another goal in mind with that. So, for instance, if there's a lot of people that are moving here from California, let's see, there's Jeff Abercrombie from the band Fuel who has moved here a few years ago. If Jeff called me up and said, hey, I want to jam on something, I think that Jeff probably has something in mind that goes beyond that, and maybe he just wants to see if that's a good fit to maybe do something. So I would probably be willing to do that, but just to hang out and jam with friends is probably not. But for Mark's case, there's got to be people out there in the same situation, and they're all searching for each other. So if you're watching and you're one of those people and you want to reach out to Mark Stevens, do it, because he's looking for people who want to just hang once a week and jam. Mary is responding to Mark, it looks like. There's a musicians group on Facebook that you can join and try to meet people, Boise musicians. Yes, and I would also suggest going to blues jams that meets once a month and try to network. Yeah, see, Mary Fisher knows what's going on. Mark Velaz is here. Mark Grubert. We got some Marks in the house. I've been watching Mark Velaz. He's been building his own studio, which looks fantastic and cool. Greg Goodell is here. Greg, do I say your last name correctly? Goodell? I think it's Goodell. You can say yes or no. I used to say Goodall, and that is not correct, I don't believe. But Greg is here, and Greg has a studio out in Emmett, and he's been doing some recent videos of his studio on his YouTube channel, so you guys might want to check that out. Check it out. It's cool to be able to support each other. Having a strong network of people in the Treasure Valley is always a good thing. Always a good thing. I hope that answers Mark Stevens' question. The next was I talk about teaching and I talk about recording. So the teaching thing, Greg says, yes, you are saying it right. Even if you weren't, I would most likely forgive you. You would most likely forgive me. Well, thank you. People mispronounce Fred all the time, as odd as that might seem, because they'll call me Jeff and they'll call me Brad. And I think subconsciously they think there's no way that he just said Fred. And I think the Fred leads to Brad. I don't know how Jeff slips in there, but it does. I am not Brad Fisher. I am not Jeff Fisher. Maybe if I was ever that famous, there's some good aliases to use to check into a hotel. We don't have a Fred Fisher, but we have a Brad Fisher. Yeah. Okay. So I started talking about drum lessons and recording session work. I don't really run into people questioning what I charge for lessons, because I think I might be on the upper end of what people charge for music lessons in our area. And nationwide, I might be starting to slip to the less expensive side, but I know what I have to bring in to support my family. So where I am with teaching lessons is feels really great, and my students haven't balked at my prices, and I think they find some value in coming here, or else I wouldn't have 40 students consistently. So just a track record over a period of years lets you know that you're doing something correct. But when it comes to recording session work, what do I charge for that? I have a couple scenarios that I could tell you about. I won't say anybody by name because that's not important whatsoever. I think when people are wanting to hire a drummer to record on their music, they probably have a budget in mind for what they can afford to spend on those things. I think it's kind of, sometimes I tie it back to my experience when I had my own landscape business and people would ask for a bid to do paver work. Now, they would ask for a bid for paver work, brick pavers for a patio or a driveway or something. First of all, they have zero idea of what even the materials would cost to do that. They just think, oh, it would be nice to have a brick paver patio. So they make up in their mind that that's not expensive, And so you give them a bid, and they come back and they see, a $12,000 bid for a patio, and their head explodes and they turn red, and they get mad at me, not mad at me necessarily like personally mad at me, but they're mad at what the bid is because they had no idea in the first place what any of that would even cost. So I got to where I had a pretty good idea on an average of square footage of what I would charge for those kinds of jobs. And so if I went and met somebody, I could take some rough measurements quickly and use this number, and I would say, on average, a job like this would cost $12,000. And if that figure is okay with you, I will go ahead and put together a formal bid. So if they accepted the idea that this patio would cost $12,000, then I would go ahead and do the extra work to present them with a formal bid. And usually I would be really close to the original amount. Let's say the amount came back at 11.8. Okay, that's $200 less than what I had guesstimated. And usually they'll go, okay, yeah, when can we schedule that? So this is kind of the same scenario I get that comes up with what I charge for recording drum tracks for somebody. Sometimes people will message me and they'll make all these really nice compliments about my drumming or whatever, which is great, and I always appreciate it when people appreciate what I do. And who wouldn't? If you detail cars and people tell everybody he's the best car detailer around, great. I'm providing a service, and if that works out for people and they like what I do, awesome. I always appreciate that. So they usually, all these compliments will start the conversation, and then they'll say, I'm curious if you're available to record drums for my song. And I usually reply to them and I say, yeah, I would love to play on this track. And this isn't a big secret, so I'll just tell you what I charge to record drum tracks. I charge $250 to record drums for one song. And that's what I charge. It's not a big secret. It's, if anybody messaged me today and said, what would you charge to record drums for a song? I would tell you $250. So when I respond to them and I tell them that, sometimes they come back really combative. Oh, you charge to do that? I just thought you would just do it. I just told you you're this great drummer and I really appreciate you. Yes, thank you. I love that. I'm I'm not arguing with you, but this is what I do for a living. If I was building houses and you asked me, "Hey, you're really great at building houses. Could you build me a house?" Yeah, that costs 300,000. What? I thought you just do. I really like you. Well, I really like you doesn't help me pay my mortgage. So, yeah, there's always going to be a cost associated with those kinds of things. And I do have a small break in there if somebody wants to record a full album and have me play drums on that. But that full album has to take place in a certain time frame. It can't drag out over a year or months. It's got to be like within a few days or a week or so of work. Otherwise, I can't commit to, like, yeah, you can get me for a little bit less if we do 10 songs. And then those 10 songs drag out forever. No, those are 10 individual songs that happen to be for you. Now, if you want to track 10 songs all at once, awesome. I'll give you a little bit break of it because I'm focused 100% and solely on that project. So that's one scenario where they just come back and they're just besides themselves that I would charge to record drums. Well, it doesn't cost free to have this equipment. It doesn't cost free to um, provide this service, and I don't think I have to actually explain away why I would charge something. That's my rate. But there is a lot that goes into that to be able to provide that service. Another would be I'll tell them my rate, and they come back and they'll try to bargain with me. They'll bargain with me and say things like, "This song is really great. It's going to do great things. It's going to be more exposure for you." And I said earlier in this podcast that people die from exposure. Yes, thank you. I would hope that no matter whose song I play drums on, that song would get a lot of exposure just because the song is so great, or you're going to market it, or you're going to do whatever it is with it that you do, because it's yours and you do whatever you want with it. I did my part. um, you would be the only one in my band that I'm paying. I'm not in your band. I'm a drummer for hire. I'm in Midline. That's my band. I would even say that I'm in Cliff Miller, although that sometimes I can't play every show, and Cliff will have a sub drummer play. So, yeah, yes, Mary, correct. The stuff that really works out though is when somebody isn't putting all the stuff at the front of their message about their appreciation for me. People will message me and they'll say, "Hey, I heard great things about you. I have a song that needs drums. What's your rate and what's your availability?" Usually those conversations tell me right away that they're ready to move on this. "Hey, great, nice to meet you. I listened to the track. Sounds cool. I'd love to drum on it. My rate is $250. I can get to that on Wednesday and have the tracks to you by Thursday morning." "Great. How do we pay you?" And it's that simple. You can Venmo me. You can PayPal me. You can give me cash. You can write me a check. It goes back to one of my mentors saying, "Make it easy for people to find you, make it easy for people to hire you, make it easy for people to pay you." It's that simple. So usually when people ask those questions right up front, I am pretty sure that I have the job, even if I've never even met them. But when somebody gets me on the phone or gets me in an email or whatever, and it's just this long conversation, wow, whatever their dreams are, they're trying to explain to me all of their happenings in their world, and this is going great. And not that you shouldn't tell me that, but the people who have the fewest words are the ones that are actually really wanting drum tracks. So, uh, it's like going and buying a car, and you spend all this time with a salesman driving this car and driving that car, and you don't have no idea what you want, and you have no idea what it costs to buy a car. You're just wasting everybody's time. Stop wasting people's time. Let's see. Let's catch up here a little bit. Greg says, the biggest mistake I ever made was during COVID. In order to keep my facility open, I charged an extremely discounted rate for full production recordings to keep the lights on. I am still dealing with the repercussions from undercharging today. Yeah, Greg, I understand that, and I've been there myself, not just with music, but with landscaping. So in 2009, we had this big crashing of our economy. There was very little work coming in, and people had very little money to spend, and I needed money. I needed to take care of my family, and so um, being a landscaper is a huge physical exertion of energy. And yeah, I was out there sometimes doing stuff for half of what I would normally charge, um, just to pay some bills. And that's a place I do not like to live in. It's It's very hard on you psychologically. It's hard on your relationships too. Um, yeah, Mrs. F, the Mrs. Fisher F. Incidentally, you playing on someone's song does not mean that you are in the band. Exactly. Exactly. I think I said that, but maybe it was before you posted that. Um, yeah, being very clear in communication is so important. you know, you assuming something and they assuming something is not good. Don't assume anything. Assuming gets us in trouble. Assuming is disappointing for both parties too, because you make these assumptions. You make this. How much are you getting paid? I don't know. Then the gig's over and you get paid, and it's not what you thought it was going to be, and so then you're disappointed. Well, you were just asked 3 hours ago, what are you getting paid? Well, I don't know. So you might have been agreeing to play for nothing. Good morning, John. Uh, you don't want to do that. It's okay to ask questions. It doesn't mean you're being selfish or you're only in it for the money. Well, if you are a full-time musician, that would indicate that this is your profession, right? Profession. Pro is short for professional, your profession. So, yeah, if you're a full-time musician, you should get paid. Now, how much should you get paid? That is totally dictated by you. It's not dictated by the club owner or anybody else. You decide what you want to get paid. Now you can, this goes back to having this garbage on stage. This is trash. Don't take it on stage. Okay? Sometimes I'm tired when I'm playing music. I don't pull up a couch on stage and lay down. I leave the comforts at home. That's why it's so great to come home. Yeah, if you're a full-time musician, you should get paid. You should know what you're getting paid, know what you're agreeing to, so that when it's all said and done, you're not disgruntled and then you're talking, behind, oh, I worked for this guy and he only paid me this. Well, you agreed to do it. So don't grumble. Know in advance about what's happening. That'll save you all this headache and grief. Hey, I would really like for you to, John's here. Let's use John for an example, if that's okay. John is a guitar player and a singer and now a drummer, which is awesome. So let's say that somebody really wants John's skills for a particular gig. Hey, John, we're going to play this show. It's at the Egyptian Theater. It's for this cause, whatever the cause is. And it's going to be a great night. We'd love to have you, but here's the hiccup. It's only going to pay $50. And I know that's very little. And but if you're willing to do that, we'd love to have you. Then John can decide, I really believe in what you're doing and I'd love to help you out, and $50 sounds great for what this is. So they've made an arrangement right up front to do this thing, and away they go. So everybody goes into this knowing, hey, I really wanted John Klein to play guitar on this, and we can't afford to pay much because whatever reasons they have, but they agreed to do that. Now they could have come to John and said, hey, John, what would be your rate to have you for the night? Load-in's going to be at 4, shows at 7, it's over by 9. By the time you get out of there, it's 10 or whatever. And what would you charge us to do that? Now I'm just pulling numbers out of the air, okay? Let's say that John says, yeah, my rate for something like that would be $350. And that person could then decide, do I want to hire John for $350 for the night or not? So John confidently says what his rate is, and the person says, "Oh, that sounds great. Love to have you, no problem. How do you want to be paid?" Normally we give everybody a check at the end of the night or whatever, and John can say, "Yeah, that's fine. That'll work. No problem." A lot of times in those instances, there might be something written out. It's good to get a copy of that if you can. So yeah, what you make is determined by you and what you're willing to accept. When people say, nobody ever pays more than $100 a person to get paid or whatever. Yeah, I guess in some of those circles that you run in, that might be exactly the case. Again, are you concerned about how you're dressed? Are you having this in your face? Are you any good? What you do? I think we all think our band is good, probably, but there'll be a track record of what you're doing and what the results of those might be. So, let's see. I'm running out of time, but let's catch up with a couple comments right here with my friendly readers. Jim says, don't forget about bass and piano. Okay, Jim, I'm calling you out. You got to learn how to spell bass correctly. It's BASS. Jim, you're a drummer. You can't do that. You can't do that. Oh, he's probably going to want to smack me around when I see him later today. Forget about bass and don't forget about bass and piano. You mean John can play bass and piano? I'm guessing that's what you mean. Jim says bass. It's early. John plays. Yes, I know. I couldn't. As well as I know John already, I don't know everything about what he's capable of doing. Mary says it was probably his Siri misspelling it. Yeah, Mary will tell you that Siri hates her. I witness this all the time because she will talk to text and then she'll spend 5 minutes correcting all the errors that Siri made. That's just how she operates, I guess. Both of them, Siri and Mrs. F. She says she does. She hates me. So there you go. I hope that helps answer some questions. If I ruffled your feathers, maybe your feathers needed ruffling. So here's a cool thing. So I do coffee with Fred every Tuesday morning at 7 a.m., which means I get up at 6 to prepare and get ready, and then go live and talk to you fine people for an hour. But I am getting ready to leave here soon because I'm going to go have coffee with my friend Steve Alderetti, who's normally watching this. So he said in his text yesterday, he goes, I get to have coffee with Fred, and then after with coffee with Fred, I get to go have coffee with Fred. So, yes, there he is. So Steve and I are going to go hang out and drink more coffee, which is going to be awesome. As soon as I get my little Mr. Fisher to the bus stop, then I will be heading to meet up with Steve-O and have some coffee, which will be great. So there you go. Gary Tackett, I don't know if Gary's on here or not, but Gary and I started trying to meet about once a month for coffee. And after we did that a handful of times, we thought, wouldn't it be cool to start inviting some musician friends in the area to join us for these little coffee meetings? Just as a musician hang and an opportunity to network with that. So we discussed that, and then Gary had invited a bunch of people, and it was when my mom was going through her thing, and so I had missed that one. And then was it last Saturday or 2 Saturdays ago? I don't remember now. Um, we were going to do that, and Gary had a hiccup and couldn't make it, and I had invited some people at the last minute. So Eric Nelson and I went and had coffee, and it was a cool little drummer hang, just the two of us. But anyway, if any of you local musicians are watching and want to join Gary Tackett and I for some of these coffee meetings, let me know so we can get you invited. See, there's Gary. He's on. Gary, I was just talking about our inviting more musicians to our coffee hangs, like a once a month deal. You can't miss, neither can I. This Saturday I cannot. I will be in Utah because my number 3 son Ian has been contracted to play tuba for the Battalion Drum and Bugle Corps, which is really awesome. He did his audition. Now, when they do audition rankings, they rank you 1 through 3. So 1 is contract, 2 is they want to see more from you, and then 3 is kind of a, you need to keep working and try again next year. So Ian did his audition, and for music he scored a 1, and for visuals he scored a 1. So he was contracted immediately, which is super awesome. So Mary and I will still be DCI parents because Christian did Drum and Bugle Corps from 2019 through 2023, and then he aged out, and so now his brother is going in. So pretty fun and cool stuff. We're still going to be drum corps parents, which is awesome. So Gary, I can't do it this Saturday, but maybe like the first Saturday of each month or something, we should try to make that happen. All right, we'll talk. Okay, guys, have an awesome day. And remember, all the stuff that I'm saying, that's just thoughts and opinions based on my experience. If you want to have iPads on stage and wear cargo shorts and flip-flops, knock yourself out. But yeah, there you go. All right, guys, we'll see you later. I'm going to go have coffee with Steve Alderetti. Nighty-night.